Welcome everyone to the Transport for New South Wales MaaS Innovation Challenge Information Session. Before we begin the proceedings, I would like to acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional owners on the land in which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders both past and present. I'm Richard Tubb from the Transport for New South Wales Open and Data and Innovation team, and it's great to be here at the Sydney Startup Hub tonight, especially obviously much warmer than what it is outside. We're very excited to bring this latest innovation challenge to you. It's just awesome to see so many people and companies interested in the opportunities mobility as a service will provide. Before we continue, just a few items of housekeeping. Firstly, we are recording this session tonight, and also we'll be endeavouring to make the video available later on in the week. Also, in the off chance that we have to evacuate the building, we're just going out through the doors here and to the right, and that's where, just down through the stairs. So today we'll be taking you through everything that you need to know about applying for the MaaS Innovation Challenge, how we arrived here via the Future Transport Digital Technology Accelerator, and how Transport for New South Wales views mobility as a service as a key global transportation trend that has the potential to reduce individual vehicle ownership, enhance the efficiency of the transport grid, and significantly improve customer experience for consumers and commuters in New South Wales. Which is why we're here today, to seek and to collaborate with innovators who are interested in creating MaaS solutions and taking advantage of the significant commercial opportunity in the future of transport. What we need you to show us is how would you give customers an ideal door-to-door mobility service experience and seamless combinations, including the first and last mile options. So what's in the Innovation Challenge for you? Not only is there seed funding available, but we're also offering exclusive access to data and APIs and our Transport for New South Wales experts, as well as space here in the Sydney Startup Hub. We'll also take you through an incubation process to ensure your solution is market ready and meets all Transport for New South Wales requirements. Also, you'll have access to mentoring and support through our terrific partners, Amazon Web Services, Commonwealth Bank, MasterCard and Optus. So here's a roadmap of where we are today and where we're heading. Obviously we're at the information session tonight, and applications are actually open as of now. On the 14th of June, we will be offering very limited spaces for an industry networking event for those applicants who may be interested in partnering with another party to increase their capabilities to deliver a MaaS solution. Once applications have been submitted, there is an internal evaluation process, with finalists being selected to attend a pitch event on the 25th of July. Incubation will start in August, and with a pilot required for launch by December. And this is probably the most important slide of them all for the evening. If you only remember one thing, let's hope it's this one. So go to maaschallenge.transport.newsouthwales.gov.au. Everything you need is on the website, including the application form, questions and answers, and as I mentioned, we're adding the slides, well, I haven't mentioned, but we're adding the slides from tonight and also the video there too. To kick off the MaaS Innovation Challenge, I'd like to welcome Tony Braxton-Smith, Transport for New South Wales Deputy Secretary, Customer Services, for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Oh, hang on. Have to turn on the microphone, I was told. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you everyone for braving the weather and coming here and being present to hear about our challenge. I want to take you back actually first, right back into history, deepest, darkest history, to the beginning of 2016. And at the beginning of 2016, we were set a challenge by government, which was to reimagine transport as a technology business, to think how we could use new and emerging technologies to transform the customer experience of transport. So we set about in fine government form, actually organising a summit. But we went about the summit a little bit differently from those of you that might know or remember the summit. We actually got Steve Wozniak down, founder of Apple, co-founder of Apple, as kind of a draw card, and we got people from industry leaders, thought leaders from all over the place to spend a couple of days with us, helping us to effectively crowdsource some creative thinking about how we could effectively use these new and emerging technologies in our business. Now, without going into all of the detail of it, we went through a series of events and quite some rigour and discipline in our thinking, led by a thought leaders panel chaired by David Thodey, who is chair of CSIRO and you might know from being ex-head of Telstra, to come to a shared view in transport at a leadership level as to how we should be going about adopting new technologies to actually deliver better experiences and put Transport for New South Wales at the forefront of being the first adopters of new technologies in our field. That took us most of 2016 to actually get the picture. Now, we didn't stand still during that period of time, I have to add. We created and built what is advertised here as our open data platform. We launched it at the time thinking we might get a couple of thousand interested parties subscribing. I think the latest numbers are up to about 7,000 subscribers and over 3,000 data sets. I haven't put too many zeros on that. 3,000 data sets on that platform that people can access, developers, researchers, people who want to play around with apps or just fool around with transport data to create stuff. So that's already there as a platform, and we get lots and lots of rich usage of that. So we did that. We released what we call our New South Wales Transport Technology Roadmap towards the end of 2016. I'll leap forward into 2017, very early off that, and that is a kind of a strategic framework. As you would know, technology roadmaps are about putting little tiles on bits of paper and creating a product backlog, which we did on a mass scale for transport. And then starting to experiment and innovate. So we've done all that. In early 2017, we turned our mind to what's known as on-demand service, trying to solve the first and last mile challenge in public transport, which is to connect people door to door. And we've now actually got, I think, 11 different pilots going up. We put a significant amount of money behind that to fund and support a whole bundle of challenges in interesting areas that we think can add to the transport offering to customers to help grow the use of alternative means to personally owned vehicles. So we've done that. We've also been working on some of the building blocks which you will now get to play around with or learn more about through this particular challenge. One of them's already out there. It's called Opal Pay. And it's a different way of using your Opal card to pay for public transport services. As you know, Opal card works on our public transport network. We've actually built a little platform that sits behind it now. We've got in trial, successfully used a kind of an alpha release, I think you would call it, of our Opal Pay platform, where you can actually use your Opal card to pay for Manly Fast ferries and other privately operated ferries on the harbour. Now that is kind of just first stage. All of that architecture is just being now built to be more robust, and we will be able to use that as a platform to connect other forms of mobility payment into our ecosystem so customers can pay for mobility with Opal card. We've also, behind the scenes, been working on other building blocks. So another building block that you probably haven't heard of is our ICMP, Intelligent Congestion Management Program, which is actually quite a big program that government's got an investment in to actually take all of our incident management response systems and the platforms we use to manage our networks from a reactive stance to a proactive stance, from looking behind at what happened in the network to looking forward to what could happen based on current network conditions in the next 30 minutes, and giving us an opportunity to actually manage proactively. And that will build the capability to build responsive and predictive systems that can connect to anything that might be built in your sphere that helps to manage the traffic of supply and demand. So there's lots of interesting things happening in our ecosystem. Now, one of the things that, one of the key motivators for us in running this session is what we heard when we did our initial engagement with industry about how we should actually go about formulating a view about a transport technology roadmap, and then what we should do to actually deliver it. And kind of the general feedback was, please, government, stop specifying solutions. Just tell us the problem space you're interested in, and then let our creative forces loose. Give us an opportunity to play around and collaborate with us and support us. And that's very much the thinking behind both the digital incubator, which I think there's going to be, or sorry, we call it now the digital accelerator, which I think you're going to see a little bit more about in a minute. And it's also the thinking about these sessions. So for us, mobility as a service, it's something that in fact there's been a lot of talk around about it. Some people would say that it's kind of reaching the peak of the hype curve at the moment. As you would probably know, we're in a world where everything is as a service, or just about everything is a service. So there's a talk about getting mobility or transport as a service. There's a lot of stuff and talk around about it around the world. We've looked around the world. I think we're going to share with you some of our insights and our findings. But we're in the space now where we actually want to put ourselves on the forefront of working, collaborating with entrepreneurs, innovators, those of you who are out there playing around with technology. You might be in transport technology space. You might be in the space of gaming applications, for instance, where we think there's an interesting potential to pivot. But this is our opportunity now to get creative in this particular space. So I think the team are going to talk to you about what mobility as a service is or might be or could be, and how we want to go about creating innovative new pilots using new technologies to see what we could do to take particular cohorts of customers who are probably more predisposed to relinquish their privately owned vehicle and experience a service which enables them to get wherever they want without having to own a car themselves for their exclusive use. So I think I'll stop there. It's the start of the process. I think we're very keen to work flexibly and collaboratively with whoever's around to make sure that we can put the right parties in the room to get successful trials up. This for us is very much a test and learn environment. For those of you that have been around longer, you probably remember that we actually started to play around with a number of public transport apps a long time ago, and we've developed valuable partnerships for us, which allow us to deliver great services to our customers. That was a big step forward at the time, and boy did we see take up of that. This is the next big step that we want to take at the layer of the customer application layer. So with that, I think I've set an ambitious platform for you to follow up on. I think I'm now to hand over to Micah. Is that right? No, Micah, Stephanie, Richard, I'll hand over to someone else.
Thanks. Testing. Thanks very much.
That's it.
Thank you, Tony.
No.
I didn't wait for you. Okay. Thank you. A lot of thank yous. There you go. Okay. So thank you, Tony, very much for insight. I'm back. I think I'm back. I'd like to welcome Stephanie Soldier, Transport for New South Wales Associate Director for the Future Transport Digital Accelerator, who will explain the role of the Digital Accelerator and mobility as a service.
Thank you. So, hello everybody. I'm Stephanie Salter, and I manage and run the Future Transport Tech. I'm now going to do the same thing. The Future Transport Digital Accelerator, which is located on level 11 in this building. So before I go into too much detail, here's a video. We are seeing New South Wales change at an incredible rate. Population is rising, customer needs are shifting, and service expectations are continuing to rise.
The transport ecosystem is vast, as are the opportunities for change. The value of innovation comes from shifting the focus back to the customer and systematically designing new solutions that meet their needs. Here at the Accelerator, we aim to understand all aspects of our customers' problems. We then fast-track the delivery of products that meet their needs. The Accelerator facilitates direct collaboration between the public and private sectors, connecting teams from the New South Wales Transport Cluster with industry, researchers, entrepreneurs, and startups in the digital space. A core team of experienced human-centered designers guide teams through the accelerated process to support and fast-track the future transport technology roadmap initiatives.
Our transport technology roadmap clearly sets out the way that we want to go about adopting new and emerging technologies to deliver better outcomes for transport customers. This is a big priority for New South Wales Government. We have created the Transport Digital Accelerator so that we can actually work collaboratively and creatively with customers and partners to trial the use of new technologies.
We apply design thinking and agile approaches to address complex customer transport challenges. Our proven framework of prototyping, testing, and learning amplifies existing capabilities and encourages breakthrough thinking to deliver smart customer-focused solutions. We team up with industry and the startup community to access expertise, allow divergent thinking, and rapidly deliver outcomes to market.
So the real opportunity for us with the Digital Accelerator is to bring the best of the startup community to come and look at our transport opportunities. Everything from the way that we do ticketing, to the way we do timetabling, to the way we move freight around our system. It's all up for improvement and innovation here at the Accelerator. So for us, this is very exciting, and it really opens the door for innovation.
So that video really gives you a snapshot of how we work and why we're doing what we're doing. So we really have the 4 Ps that we work to. So we have the people, so we have a group of human-centered designers who work with us using design thinking. So what we do is we go wide, we understand what the problem is. We understand by talking to a lot of people in the industry, we talk to customers, we talk to the business. Then we actually use that information to get down to what the problem statement is. So we have experts in the Digital Accelerator. We also have the space, so it's a bespoke space that is upstairs in level 11. It is there to actually help facilitate these discussions and actually bring customers in and actually do a lot of workshops to understand the space that we're working in. We've also got a methodology, so over the last year and a half we've been working within transport to actually use this methodology for various problems across transport. We have developed a toolkit which is actually available on the website, and the toolkit highlights some of the activities that we use in the Digital Accelerator. So how we actually apply human-centered design in a practical way in transport. And we've also obviously got our partners, so luckily we have a group of fantastic partners who are actually working very closely with us to ensure that we have the best minds and the best resources available to actually enhance our products as we come out of the design thinking process. So more details on the process itself. So this is a bit of a top-line view, but essentially what we do first is understand what the problem is. So it's very important for us to prioritise the problem. So we work very closely within transport to identify where the opportunity is. So that's working with business owners within transport, identifying the key stakeholders and the correct SMEs, the subject matter experts that will actually help inform the problem space. We go through a process to understand what that might look like before we actually enter into the accelerator. So we make sure that it aligns to the future transport technology roadmap. We ensure there is a business sponsor. We ensure that there is a real appetite within the business to actually solve that particular problem, and we ensure that it's not being done elsewhere within industry. So it's a unique problem. Then we go into the problem space. So we start the accelerator. We go wide, so we go and talk to experts. We go and look at huge amounts of data sets. We go speak to people within the business. We go talk to customers. Talk to customers about what their pain points are. We talk to industry. What are industry looking to do in this particular space? What is industry doing? What's best practice? Then we start narrowing it down. So we go through a bit of a synthesis process and we narrow it down to actually understand where the opportunity might lie. So we narrow it down to actually get to a really clear problem space, a problem statement. And that's where we see the opportunity to actually solve for that problem. So it's a problem that's been validated by the business, by industry and by customers. So the next thing we do is we do some light iterations. So we start to think around how might we solve for that particular problem. And that's where we are today. We've actually identified this opportunity of where the opportunity might be to solve for mobility as a service, and that's when we would run the challenge. Then we would follow, again through human-centered design, we'd follow a process of prototyping, testing and iterating. We get to the end of that to actually get to a fully fledged product which would be ready to be delivered to customers. And for the accelerator itself, because we've had business within transport along the whole way of that journey, we then transition back out into the business to actually scale and run. So the accelerator itself is not a business as usual facility. It's actually there to help the business accelerate a particular project and then put it back into business to be a business as usual project. So here's our roadmap. And as you can see, we have a number of priorities on there. The ones highlighted in orange are the ones that we've been focusing on. So the first one is around developing a single integrated account for mobility services. So this is where we see mobility as a service coming into place. This is a very important priority for us. We've also got the priority around automated networks, optimization of the timetable planning, service delivery and performance, using analytics to optimize end-to-end customer journeys, routes and interchange. And we've also got trialling AI applications that improve network management and/or customer service. So as you can see, there's real opportunity in here. So mobility as a service is the first of many, and we're looking at the end of this accelerator process to be partnering with startup community and industry to help solve these problems. So, mobility as a service. So when we put mobility as a service into the accelerator, we actually found there was a multitude of definitions for mobility as a service. So to frame this conversation for the Innovation Challenge, we'd like to share with you where we landed on a definition so that we're all speaking the same language. MaaS is a dynamic, growing market with small and large players working with their own definitions and visions for what it could and should be. At its most basic, it's the service that sits between customers and their mobility options with the goal of enabling seamless travel. MaaS is one of many options for cutting down private car ownership and single-person use. So when we were talking to customers, going through our human-centered design methodology, here are some of the key findings. By first understanding what customers were doing, we can then work towards solving those pain points and encourage alternative behaviour. So in light of the challenge, we thought we would share some of these insights to help inform your solutions. Number one, car is king. So in Australia, we love our cars. It's a cultural thing, but also it's something which we find that is sometimes necessary given the distances that we travel within Australia. So we have some communities which have no alternative to a car. So car is king. Efficiency and customer experience. For customers to change their behaviour, we need to provide them travel options which are efficient and a system which is easy to understand. So different priorities and different solutions. Travel needs are different depending on what I need to do that day, so the solution needs to flex to my needs. So my travel expectations or my travel needs when I'm actually going to work are different, for example, for my travel needs when I'm travelling on the weekend. Third-party data exchange. So data underpins everything that we do. Mobility as a service actually won't work if we don't have data and if we don't have data sharing. Don't plan for me. So that really is around customers wanting options. They don't want to be told the solution. They want to have a comparative view of what their options are and then make an informed decision. And we don't know the true cost. So the number of customers that we spoke to when we said, how do you get to the station in the morning when you catch a train to work? They say, well, I drive. Okay, why do you drive? Well, because I can park at the station and it's free, so it doesn't cost me anything. Why don't you catch the bus? Well, the bus costs money. They don't actually see the sunken cost in their cars, so they're seeing it as a free service. They're driving to the station for free, but they're not accounting for how much they paid for the car, the cost of registration and maintenance, the petrol, and also, obviously, the pollution that actually comes out of their car when they drive to the station. We also scanned the market both within Australia but globally as well. And what we found was MaaS is still in a pilot stage. There's no standard model. First and last mile is critical. Disruption is definitely coming. Innovation is both physical and digital, and incentives may be required to change behaviour. So I'm looking at mobility as a service and how might New South Wales Government play a role in this space. We've come up with some key focus areas. Our focus areas are primarily data, the collection and sharing of data, ensuring customers' safety and security, regulation that is effective and efficient, facilitating trust and building relationships, enhancing the public transport mass transportation backbone, and ensuring accessible transport, socio-economic, demographic and geographical. This is where we see our role in facilitating mobility as a service market. We're interested in how we can partner with you to work in this space. Mobility as a service will only work if both public transport and private industry collaborate. And this is why we have developed the Mobility as a Service Innovation Challenge. Sorry, you don't need that on.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you very much for that, Steph. It's great to see the journey through the digital accelerator process to come up with what potentially could be a MaaS Innovation Challenge and what you guys can come up with as well. I'd like to welcome to the stage Micah Starkis, Transport for New South Wales Director, Open Data Apps and Feedback Systems, who will take you now through the details of the challenge.
G'day everyone, thanks for braving the weather out there tonight. I'm going to sort of turn now to the process of the Innovation Challenge and just give you a few maybe tips and tricks to make sure that you make a good and rounded submission into this challenge. I think I'll cover it in sort of three areas. I'll point to sort of, and I won't go through the strategy documents, but I'll point to the key sort of artefacts you might want to refer to and immerse yourself in if only temporarily. We'll talk about just the key details of the challenge, like timelines, and then I'll probably talk a bit about the criteria and how we've broken it up and the need for you to answer each of the questions. But Richard's already sort of alluded to it. If you don't remember anything I say, make sure you get to the website. All the detail that I go through now is contained there. Now, first and foremost, you should be making taking a bit of research time for the future Transport 2056 strategy. Look, it sets out the long-term vision for transport over the next 40 years, and the drivers behind it are real. Like, the reason for the focus over the horizon is the population is growing, and we need to be able to respond to it, get our network at a point where we can meet that demand. This places getting better mobility options for customers as a necessity, hence this conversation now, so that we can work together to meet that. You'll also see significant things in there like our investment in infrastructure. I think it's a good $42 million worth of infrastructure planned or underway. That isn't going to be sufficient to meet demand that's coming to us with the growing population. There's other things in there too, just with the demographics, you know, the change to, I think, with 1 in 5 people will be over 65, and the planning strategy to focus on the 3 cities approach within the Sydney area. All important things and should be informing your submission. Tony's already talked about this as well, so he's done a bit of my thunder, but the future transport technology roadmap. You know, apart from, it signals a clear focus on particular technologies, new and emerging technologies. Apart from making it a very exciting place to work, transport, if you work in technology, it lays out the 5 strategies and the 5 focus areas that transport is focusing in. They're all relevant, but I would pay particular attention to the create intelligent transport networks managed with data. As we go through this journey together, whatever the solutions are that we're working on together, data is going to be a key component, and it is front and centre within the questions that we're going to ask you through this challenge. Obviously, and it goes without saying, refer back in your submissions to the challenge statement. We've intentionally kept it broad. We're interested in a wide variety of ideas to come to us, but if there's a few sort of call-outs I want to make, excuse me. The door-to-door mobility sort of statement, really this is the intent of this challenge is to focus on the customer and delivering something to customers that is appealing to them. We're not suggesting we're after mobility services that pick people up from their door and deliver them to the door. What we want is an end-to-end experience for customers, and we need to make it seamless, and we need to bring in the different combinations of transport into something compelling that customers will embrace. Now this is our working vision for this initiative. Really, this dialogue is to how do we get the marketplace where we can best meet community needs. And when we talk about compelling alternatives to car ownership, we need to be at a place not to mandate that we're replacing cars, but we need to give customers something that they're willing to interact with and use instead of their own personal vehicle. With the journey, we're going to have to work out how we share data amongst ourselves so that we have the opportunity to manage the network and demand on the network from a total view. And whatever the services are, they need to be able to interact with each other. We're not trying to consume the need for public transport, it's got to work with the modes of transport that are established. Now, moving on to sort of the details of the challenge. Seed funding, there is a pool of seed funding that will be available. That'll be determined by the request that you made to us, but justified with the benefits that your solution will deliver and the impact and the total investment that we will need to make to bring your submissions to life. We're going to shortlist through this process to progress to later stages and incubation of the Innovation Challenge. When you do make submissions, and I'll get into the criteria in a moment, that it is a long application form. There is a lot of questions. There is need for that, and I encourage you to persevere, but there are also eligibility requirements you might need to look at, but that's all contained on the website in the terms and conditions. You do need to address the criteria. There is no right answer for a lot of them, but just spend the time providing the details. And as we go through this, as we shortlist, there is the pitch event that is coming up. I think I'll talk about that here. So again, if we're talking about key messages, I suppose the first key date is submissions will close on the 9th of July. So make sure your homework and don't leave it to the last minute. We've got a few other events. Richard will cover off the industry collaboration event, where it's your opportunity to potentially meet others that might be willing to partner so that you do have a well-rounded submission and offering for this challenge. We are targeting starting incubation promptly in August, and we do hope to have pilots out by December. Now here's the criteria. Key things, there are 5 criteria, and I'll go through each of them. They are broken up into different questions, but what we are looking for is organisational strategic alignment. You need to be able to deliver and improve MaaS customer experience and some innovation. We need to understand the technology and resources you have available, and there needs to be a focus on the data. We need to focus on you've got a feasible approach to be able to deliver this to the timeframes within your submission. And the interesting one is the what is the ask of transport. We need to get an indication at this stage what the investment might be from our point of view and the investment that you'll need to make your solution a success. I think I can talk through all this is in the shape of the form that you'll be filling out on our website. A lot of it is relatively self-explanatory, but the first criteria, organisational strategic alignment, is probably the easiest of the 5 to answer. Just tell us the story as to why you're interested in this space, how it aligns with our strategy, and what your commitment and focus is. Now, we might ask you a bit of details just to give us an overview of your organisation, but this, I trust, is probably the easiest one to answer through the criteria. Now the second criteria, the improved MaaS customer experience. Now this is where you need to focus and give us the clarity on what you're proposing to us as a solution, product or service. My high level advice here is don't leave it as defining a solution and allow us to work out what the problem is. You need to be able to crystallise and give us confidence that you've focused on 3 particular areas. Focus on the solution and the improved customer experience that it will deliver. You need to give there'll be a second question focusing on who the actual customers are that you're going to be delivering this solution to. You'll be asked to, maybe in the form of a customer value proposition, just give crystallised sort of focus on what the benefits are. And the third question, it's our innovation request, but it needs to have a market feasibility. You need to be able to give us confidence that this has got a place in the market that maybe isn't fulfilled at the moment. The third criteria about technology, resource, capability and data sharing. Three main questions. One is more important than the others. So you'll need to give confidence that you've got the resources and capability, or at least a view about how to get the resources and capability to deliver your solution to a pilot stage. You'll need to also give us confidence about the technology. We want to have supreme confidence. This is not new or emerging technology, but this is technology that can feasibly be delivered. And the third one, which is probably the most important element within this criteria, is your approach for data sharing. Really from a transport point of view and for our future sort of initiatives, understanding how to share data, what data can be captured, how it can be safely and privately shared is vitally important for our future strategy. How do we get, from a transport point of view, the data that we need to manage the network optimally? The fourth criteria, timeline approach to achieve the milestones. Pretty simple, this one. Just tell us how your solution will be feasibly delivered to meet the timelines. There's two questions within this, so the timeline and how you'll deliver, but what's also going to be important is you need to tell us what responsibilities transport might have to be able to deliver your solution. If you taught a project manager, we need to understand the dependencies within your solution that might require us to take action. Now, the indicative investment required is essentially what is the ask. Now, this will come in sort of three forms. Indicate the seed funding that you might need to get your solution to a pilot stage. It is seed funding. We believe there is a great opportunity here for someone if they can be incisive and we can get something to market together. We also believe that there is a high possibility that whatever it is comes out of this solution will be commercially sustainable in its own right going forward. But first and foremost is give us what is the ask? How much seed funding do you need? We need consideration in a second element, how this will be commercially sustainable in its own right and what might be required and how that's best value for government if there is an investment. And then we'll have a specific call out if there's any sort of elements beyond funding that might give your solution the best chance of getting to a pilot. But I think the key thing is that it is an expansive submission form. I say persevere with it. The questions are quite prescriptive, but it is detail we need to be able to make the right decision and form the right partnerships going forward. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Micah. Well, hopefully now all of you here in the room have a much better advantage to look at how you'll be able to bring in all that bit of information and create your application to appeal to transport. So great tips there from Micah. So thank you very much for taking everyone here through that journey. And as Micah said, it is a bit of a monster, that form, but do persevere. We're definitely looking forward to seeing what type of applications come through. In terms of the next steps, as I mentioned at the very, very beginning, this is the website, masschallenge.transport.newsouthwales.gov.au. That's where you'll need to head. That has all of the information that is required. It also has the application form there as well. So basically any information there is all basically all you'll need. We'll have questions and answers there as well. So there'll be quite a few bits of information that we haven't covered here. We can go into a little bit more detail with as well. And as was mentioned previously, we do have an industry networking event. Now this event is to facilitate the opportunity to meet with others within the industry. Now this is ultimately for those who potentially believe they don't have a full breadth of capability and to boost their capabilities by potentially partnering with another party. So if that sounds like something that you may be interested in and something that you think that will bolster your application, if there is a particular area in which you may require some additional skill sets that you may not have internally, then we would recommend for you to register for that event. Now, there is very limited capacity for that event, so it is first in, best dressed. And that is the URL, so bit.ly MaaS Networking. You might want to take a note of that because that's not something, because there is very, very limited capacity, that's not up in lights at actually on the website. But we will have this pack as well, so we'll have the pack for you to download to be able to view that. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I would strongly encourage you to register on that site. So next we have a Q&A session, and I would like to welcome back Tony Braxton-Smith, Mike Astakis and Stephanie Salter for our Q&A panel. And we have exactly 20 minutes, or up to 20 minutes, for questions. So if you have a question, what I'll do is I'll get you to raise your hand. We have our microphones as a service over here that will deploy in your immediate vicinity. So a seamless experience for everyone.
Hello, Rajesh from Urban Data Design. Just a quick one actually. Could you tell us more about what exactly you mean by first and last mile?
Loosely speaking, what gets you to the railway station and what gets you from the railway station to wherever you're going. It could be to whatever is your regular form of public transport, but gets you from the door to the public transport solution that or public transport service you've chosen. And then when you get to the end point of that, you know, your last mile might be by your feet, but you might want some other form of transport to get you there. And that is often a challenge for customers who want to use public transport. It's one of what's known as the perceived barriers for public transport. So hence we're doing on-demand transport, just as one of those things. But you know, it could be Uber or one of the point-to-point, other point-to-point operators, but Uber, Taxify, one of the other new point-to-point operators that are in the market, or indeed, in my case, a taxi. And look, I'm going to use your question just to kind of give you a little bit of a Tony tip, which is just some kind of thinking that I've been doing about this. But if you think about customers, then as much as Stephanie said, there's a bunch of customers out there who say car is king. There's also a bunch of customers out there, particularly customers under 30, who are increasingly foregoing car ownership and don't even bother learning to drive. And there are other customers out there, and I count myself in it, that call themselves public transport loyals. So they actually use car as a last resort. But like me, still got a car parked at home, sometimes won't use it for a fortnight. But that's because no one yet has found another group of people like me who might be prepared, if there's another offer there, to actually migrate to that offer. But there are probably groups of customers out there today, cohorts of customers I call them, who are using the new point-to-point services, perhaps car share and public transport as the predominant or the only form of getting around. Those are probably our initial target market, because I think one of the risks here is everyone talks about mobility as a service as if it's going to be for everyone. So in other words, everyone thinks that we're going to build Facebook as of first release. But if you think about how Facebook actually started, it started on a campus with a group of people with a very sticky experience from then, and it just took off. So we're not actually looking in this particular challenge for the whole market to be addressed. We're looking for you to give some thought to about, well, which group of customers might be able to create something that's kind of an interesting and sticky experience, putting together a group of products that they could consume to move around, and with a platform that is a single integrated experience, a digital platform that's a single integrated experience. And Micah hits on data a lot, and I absolutely support that, because if you look at all of the successful platform models of the new economy, then you'll see that they all take data in real time and kind of take that, what sometimes is called the digital exhaust, and recycle that back into the product and the management of its delivery. So those to me are the three essential components that you want to think about in creating your offer. So as much as these guys say is there's scarcity in the 14th of June evening, if you've got a part of an idea or part of a solution, pitch it to us anyway and try and find partners on the 14th of June, is what I'd say. Yeah. Sometimes when I get hold of a microphone, I don't let go. Sorry. It's a bit like Fidel Castro.
Thanks very much. With the MaaS definition as sitting as a sort of a layer between the customer and the operator, are we expected to bring along transport operators to the party, or are you facilitating that discussion with us? So our idea, for example, first last mile is, I want to do something with O-Bike. Do I need to bring O-Bike to the table, or are you going to say to us, here's a pre-selected group of providers that we should work with or interface with?
You want to go for that one, or I will? So here's the deal. With Transport for New South Wales, we actually do have all of the public transport. So we can actually bring the public transport to the table. The rest of it is actually up to the market and how you engage with the market and the sort of business model you create. We are wide open. If you get online and do a bit of research, you'll find that there's been a little bit of state-sponsored effort in this particular space. Look at the Scandi countries, or Dubai was another great example, where the state agency kind of went hell-bent for leather in building the platform, and they haven't actually succeeded. And that's probably because it's not really the best role for government to be doing the end-to-end. It actually needs genuine entrepreneurship. So, part of what we're trying to do is go, hang on, as government, there's certain things we can do and will bring to the table, like public transport, like all of the other things we've been talking about. But we actually need creative entrepreneurs who are going to get out there and create interesting, quirky little products that are well beyond the stretch of our imagination, and are going to stretch and push us into bending our rules. And one thing we're big about is we don't break rules, but boy do we give them a good bending. So we will, if there's something interesting and attractive for a customer that you've been able to put together by kind of using your entrepreneurial spirit, then we will kind of get in behind it and try and help to make it work. So pitch us the idea. You might not, the more you talk to and get on board, the better. But even if you've just got a really great sticky idea and you need others along, then we may be able to help you with that. All right? So your call.
Hi. So related to that last point, how disruptive of a solution are you willing to tolerate? And what I mean by that, I'll give you context rather than leaving that as a lob. So, one of our proposals would require significant change to the bus routes. And that said, it could be experimented and done in a localized experiment to prove that it works, but it would require significant change to the bus routes. And so, straight up, is that something that would be considered, or is that a bit too far for this breed?
That's innovation. Like
I think you have to. It's very hard to answer that question, so we don't know what it is. But innovation to us isn't necessarily the new product that gets out there in customers' hand. A lot of the innovation is changing processes, looking internally, changing the relationships that we've got. So we're happy to receive ideas about how we might tackle that, but too hard to answer. I think that'd have to be in the shape of a submission. But you'd have to be, in the submission, you'd have to be sort of articulating what changes you would need so we can make an informed decision.
I'm going to add a little bit of colour to that before we go to the next question. Transform the mass transit network, automate networks and optimise timetable planning, service delivery and performance. That is our code for using a lot of digital information that we only just are starting to play around with, a lot of data, to actually understand people's movement, because the bus network in Sydney, and I can say this because I moved to Sydney 6.5 years ago, looks pretty weird, yeah, in certain places. And actually, if you do go back in history, you go, oh, that used to be a tram route until government ripped up the tram lines back in the 50s. So we are at the moment running a parallel process, which is to look at how we might optimise bus routes. So we are open to the intersection of what might come out of MaaS and what might come out of that piece of work. It necessarily will be in a small pilot area, and for us, one of the interesting things about bus is you can keep things to a contained area. So, you know, that would take, as you can probably tell, they're probably getting nervous right now, and because I see my job as being kind of the chief, at times, disorganiser, where I will stretch my team to actually go a little harder and a little further. In this one, I will necessarily actually have to stretch others in transport to think likewise. But it gets back to what's the compelling offer and how can we trial it and pilot it on a small scale to see if it might work.
Awesome. So I've got a bit of a follow-up question just around our scope and around what's possible. So, you know, a lot of these door-to-door solutions are possible, but they're actually quite expensive to do. Let's be honest, like, none of these problems are simple. So, you know, what if we could give you a solution that would allow 200,000 people odd to actually be able to take a trip using in-park your network, but it costs $2 million? Would that be outrageous?
Cost what?
$2 million.
So one of the things that we don't do up here is say how much money we've got, because the minute we say how much money we've got, the game changes. It becomes a group of people trying to help government spend their budget. So this is about innovation, and innovation works best on, you know, having scarce resource. If someone came to us with that as a pitch, we would need to probably understand more deeply if there is what the total value proposition is that would merit the investment of the sort of money that you're talking about. But it depends on the value of what you're going to get for the money you invest. And I think we frankly would be asking ourselves, if that's an interesting proposition, but is there a way to actually run a smaller scale pilot, right, which doesn't actually all of a sudden revolutionise life for 200,000 people, but can we run a smaller scale pilot to actually prove up how that might work? But, you know, frankly, if it's all on the basis of, without getting into government process, which is very dull at times, it's all on the basis of how we can justify economically scaling up investments. So we need to look at small scale, what the effects are for customers, and we will look at the direct benefit to transport and the benefit to customer, but the benefit to economy. If we can come up with an answer there that is a positive, then government will invest. And if you look at what government does invest in, you'll see they invest in a broad range of things, yes? So anything is possible, it's what the compelling value proposition is.
Thanks. I might add a bit to that too. Like, this is where you've got to invest. Like, this is a growing dialogue. Sometimes you might tell us something we might understand it. So maybe if there is something compelling, you've got to be able to give it to us so we understand it. Because if we need to spend 6 months sort of unpicking and understanding what you mean, that'll make it challenging. So maybe you focus on what the benefits are, and if you are asking money, you might need to invest some time in understanding what the financial benefits to government and the customers of New South Wales is as well.
This guy's itching to ask a question.
Here you go, mate.
I have a few questions.
Pick the best one, because there's a few others I want to ask a question.
There's already an application in Sweden, MaaS application. Have you looked at that instead of running this workshop? To use that here in Australia?
We've observed a lot like MaaS-like solutions happening all around the world. Like, in total, I don't think anyone's nailed it. So we're looking for a local application, like the local application of these new ideas. So yeah, for everyone, I think there are some good ideas around emerging around the world, and I think you might want to
research that. We thought for a period of time actually putting this on in summer so we could get those Swedish folk down here to do stuff here, but we actually thought better to grow our own because we haven't seen a platform anywhere in the world that the industry has gravitated around. So no one's cracked it yet. This is our opportunity using Australian ingenuity to do that. There's a gentleman up there who's waving his hand. Can we go to him next? And then throw your hands up. Who's afterwards? And then there's two more there.
Thank you. John Asquith. You've mentioned the importance of data in all of this, and obviously there will be a certain amount of data generated through whatever we do here, but there's also an awful lot of data that already exists, which will be critical for any solution. Are you going to publish what APIs and what data sets are going to be available, particularly those that are going to be available in real time from current transport systems?
I think the short answer is yes, and looking after the open, I'd be interested in what data sets you're actually thinking of.
Tell us what you mean.
Trip data.
So we've got a shed load of stuff up there already. If there's more stuff that you need, then to make your solution work, tell us what it is and we'll work out how to get it to you. That's been our principle in the past. And as to your data, if you're sensitive about proprietary data, then we will put appropriate protections around it. Our interest is in getting a network picture and managing the network and enabling customers to get what they want. There are some data sets that we've got that we do not release. We would need to understand what the purpose and benefit was and make sure that we were staying within the framework. But we will have a rich and interesting conversation with you about what data that you can't get your hands on yet, but you need to make your solution work. Who's next?
Hi, Klaus from Skatego. It's interesting you're talking about domestic technology. We're actually one of these platforms, MaaS enabling platforms that powers a few MaaS trials around the world. A lot of them, unfortunately, are still in stealth, and we're under NDA with seemingly the whole world, so we can't talk about it. But we are still very small, and we're not really big enough to engage with government direct. How do you propose we engage with government in a way that we're still protected?
Through this process.
Through this process, yes.
This is your big opportunity This is your big opportunity, class, because the procurement rulebook, I'm tempted to say we put it through the shredder, but we don't do that. But as I said before, we bend the rules seriously. We want to actually get stuff done. So we're here to work out a way to get stuff done with small, entrepreneurial, fast-moving, nimble people. And we will worry about how to manage the rest of our colleagues in government if we've got a sticky and compelling idea for customers.
Last question.
Oh, God, we're just getting warmed up.
Okay, second last question.
Thanks, thank you. Is there a priority area like geography or cohort that you want to tackle with this stuff?
New South Wales.
Okay, next.
Is the digital accelerator, is that only for solutions that are directly for the customer? Or are you, for example, also interested in solutions that help New South Wales in planning?
So there are priority areas up on the screen there. So essentially we've got a customer focus. Mm-hmm. So human-centered design is around understanding the customer needs and actually unblocking any of those barriers to make sure the customer has the best experience. So that is our focus, but also we want to have an optimised network. So it's not to say that we wouldn't look at improving our own work practice and actually looking at other business models and looking at different ways of working. So, but we have a customer focus at the accelerator.
I'll ask you a follow-up question. Are you thinking of a solution in the context of this challenge or something outside?
There are solutions that I'm thinking of outside, inside as well, but there are solutions to do public transport planning online, for example, using publicly available data.
So if you've got other solutions that you're trying to pitch to government, you could find yourself actually burning a lot of effort on this for not much reward, because we're using this particular structured process, but let us know where your interests are, because we're always open to new ideas. We'll figure out how you can engage without having to burn a lot of time, effort and energy, only for us to say it doesn't meet our criteria, won't be going any further with it. And when I said New South Wales, I meant anywhere in New South Wales, a small geography of your choosing, small or large.
Okay, well,
bonus question.
Okay, bonus question. Okay, bonus question is.
Hi, Devina from Sistra. I have a question about your concept of MaaS. So MaaS is about sharing all the transport resources and giving them to the customers. But it's also about giving a unified payment solution. And obviously the government has an idea about what the next generation ticketing will be. Is there an expectation that we will work in collaboration with that strategy, or that we will get access to that strategy to plan our mobility as a service solution?
So you're asking where you get access to payment methods across all these. Look, I think that's a journey that we're all on together. I think Tony alluded to it. We've got a roadmap to invest in that area, but that will take time. But yeah, I'd suggest that through this partnership, you'd be on that journey with us.
So in terms of next generation ticketing, it's already out there as to what we're doing. We have an Opal platform, which is very well loved and respected, which is which customers are really attached to. We are looking to take Opal from being able to pay for public transport to being able to pay for a broader range of mobility solutions. So what we would be saying here is we'll open up API sets in time that enable Opal to be used as the form of payment. The other direction we're going is with the Opal network on public transport. We've got a contactless payment card trial at the moment. It's on the ferry and the light rail network. Minister has already made the commitment on our behalf that it will be on the rail network before the end of the year. So there is another little group of people who are sweating on how to make that happen. So it doesn't need to depend on Opal. It can also be based on credit card.
Thank you very much, Tony, Micah and Stephanie, being on our panel tonight and to answering some of those curly questions. Hopefully that has whetted your appetite for MaaS and a taste of things to come. So don't forget to head to maaschallenge.transport.newsouthwales.gov.au and submit your application. I'd like to thank you all for braving the weather this evening and attending the information session. We're all super excited to see what submitted applications you have and what your vision for mobility as a service will be. Now, if you have carefully planned your trip, you now have exactly 29 minutes to get home and watch the latest instalment of League as a Service. Thank you very much.